All right, so again, on page 344, we have our plain cookie requirements, our iced cookie requirements. We have those wrote down on our notebook paper. We also wrote down our constraints, the 4 limiting factors. And so we want to figure out how many dozens can Abby and Bing make right now. What are some possibilities? Okay. Do we have enough? If we pick this many iced and this many plain, we want to pick combinations right now. We want to test to see if they are possible. Okay. So right now we have our table set up. Okay, we have our table set up on the bottom half of our notebook paper, and we are going to try one combination together. Okay. Second hour, the first combination someone came up with was 70 and 70. Do you have any? Why might someone have picked 70 and 70 as a combination to start with? Based on the constraints we have. Julie.
Because you can make 140 dozens and 70 is half of that.
Okay, good. So dividing those out. So 70 of each. That would try, hopefully, maximize our oven space. Okay? Let's see. Go ahead and write that down, 70 and 70. Do you have any other combinations you think we should try?
80, 30.
80 and 30. And how did you come up with that?
I don't know.
Okay. Did you have a reason?
Trying to make the ice as many as possible.
Okay, so we were trying to use up all of the icing. And why might somebody be thinking, let's use up all of the icing?
Because if you use up all the icing, then that means that you're making as many iced cookies as possible, and that gives you the greatest profit.
Okay, and maybe that's giving us the greatest profit. Okay, so we're getting $2 for the iced and $1.50 for the plain. Another combination you think we should try?
Oh no, not a combination. Only problem is when you make 80 iced cookies, you use 12 hours of your time.
Okay, we're only using 12 hours, or
Which
you're.
means that you have 3 hours left to do the cookies, which might be where 30 came from.
Oh, and you've, okay, so downsized to 30 to accommodate for both of those. Okay, so how many of you are confident right now that you could test 70 and 70 all the way across this table and determine if this combination was possible for 110 pounds of dough? It would be 15 hours or less, and I would use 32 pounds or less of icing. How many of you could test 70 and 70? Your number sense skills would be able to help you do this. Okay? And so right now, that's what we're going to do. So to test each one of these constraints, you would do a little bit something different to test it out. So let's try 70 and 70. There's lots and lots and lots of combinations we can try. Right now, we're looking for combinations that meet all 4 constraints. So the dozens, we've already just discussed this. To find the dozens, we would do what? We would simply add them together. So 70 and 70 is 140. So that's good. We're at 140 or less. How would we test the dough? How do we know if I have enough dough to make 70 and 70?
You simply
Put your calculators in your hand. Sorry, Jacob, keep going.
You simply multiply the number of cookies you're gonna make by the amount of dough it takes.
All right, so 70 times
1
plus
70 times 0.7.
70 times 0.7. Typing that in.
70 what?
70 times 1, because it's 1 pound each, plus 70 times 0.7. And that's going to use, uh-oh. So that's bad. That's over. We don't have enough dough to make 70 of both types. Okay? If this was you and your group, like it's going to be in about 2 minutes, you would be done. You wouldn't need to test the rest of them. You would just pick a new combination and try the rest. Okay? How would you test the time? Everyone, how much time would 70 and 70 take? Ryan?
You would multiply 15 by 60 to get 900 minutes.
Okay, so we could convert it to minutes and know that we could, so if you wanted to think about this in minutes, instead of 15, we could say that we have, how many again?
900.
We have 900, oops. We have 900 total minutes. Why does it keep pulling the eraser up? I can't maybe write that close to the top. So we'd have 900 minutes, and so instead of multiplying by 0.1 and 0.15, you could multiply by 6 and 9, okay? But if I wanted to, so the other way would be 0.1 times, type this in your calculator, 0.1 times 70 plus 0.15 times 70, and that would tell you then in hours. Okay, and it looks like that was going to cost us 17 hours, 17 and a half hours, so that was also too much. So that combination was too much. Did we have enough icing for 70 though? How would we figure icing? 0.4 times our 70, and that would be
28.
So it's going to only take 28 pounds of the 32. So we do have enough icing to do 70, okay? Now, what I want you to do with your group right now is everybody pick a different combination. Okay, so you can pick the 30 and 80, but only one of you. So tell your group which combo you're going to try, and everyone pick a different one. You have about 4 minutes. Go ahead. Yes, and then have you found your profit yet? She's doing the 30 and 80. What do you want to pick? Go 70 plus 40. Yeah, try that.
You could have a maximum of 80 ice. So the maximum
If you can find a different combination that makes it That's not my challenge.
Oh, actually, that's my. I haven't done
So you're trying.
Yep, you're gonna test it just
Are you
like we
trying
did.
49?
So everyone's testing a combo right now and seeing if it works.
So just plug it in just like 49.
If you find a combo that works, get your profit and then find another combo that try to make more money.
So does it work? It does work. You have 110 pounds. As long as you don't go over it, it works. So you just keep going. So then the number of dozen, you just add them together. Is the number of dozen. You have space for 140. And the time it takes for you, 49 times 0.1.
75.
55 times 15 years. I think you would have to do the ice, so 55 times 0.1.
Yes.
Okay, so all of those ones, and you have leftovers, so you know you probably can do something more, right, for more profit. You can find out the profit by doing the same thing. 49 times 1. What do you have? Dollar.
One last one.
What do you do for the dome?
Plus.
Okay, which
Little, how do you do it?
okay, so how do we do 77? So 30 times 1 plus 80 times.
So you know there's probably something out there that's more because you still have some space leftover. You still have some leftover, you still have some 30 space leftover. You know that you could so you would just, you can keep going.
Wait, how did you do
Did you do 1565 and
Oh, it's done.
Yes.
Hang on.
It didn't talk about if we were allowed to have
Okay,
half.
now last time we were.
No, it does say somewhere, it doesn't say it's this part, but they make it by the dozen.
Or not, I said go, I meant I said 32. Now, the question is, you can do one more year on it and it's there.
Fun.
So now, what, how do you figure out what's your profit?
Yes, I already figured out.
You did the 38.
Oh yeah, that would be,
I
your graph would be different, just so you know.
McLean, I need your. Put jelly on that.
I put words on my paper.
Oh no.
Miss Wolf.
What do you get for time? I got really.
I can always.
Oh, no.
Well,
Miss Wall, look at it, that plane uses a pound, so what's your combination of time? Yours
One
through
time
38?
that,
I'm doing 60.
Ryan,
15
Levi,
hours
Elena,
of time
ready?
used, 32 hours of
30
license supplies
times
used,
1
$205.
plus 80 times 0.7.
Like this.
Because the plane is 0.7. The ice is the 0.7.
Do it.
Which one did you
There you go.
We're gonna share out in about 90 seconds, so go ahead, if you haven't been, collaborate with your group and share combinations and profits.
My calculations, if they
So is this
do it had
only
67, and that's what I've chosen to be the maximum given in your remaining hours.
A sports.
Okay. Alright, so what,
It's
in
in my
the
yellow.
end, Thursday, we're gonna talk about,
Could make an income of 200.
should it just
Yeah.
okay, so mine is,
It was 95.5 for the dough, 115, it does 14.15 for the time.
Oh, and still meet the other requirements.
Like,
Yeah,
yes,
but it's not
be aware that
the most expensive. Yeah.
How would I do the time?
Yeah.
On tax.
No, the, 55 iced cookies.
Oh, that's my plan.
And I made 180
Yeah, but I never worked. A lot of my colleagues doing it for DA. How did I write a plus over there? And a .7 over there?
Really?
Okay.
I wonder if it's too late for the special classes. Because half of my class failed that. No, like half of my class failed 20%.
I'll be 68%.
Dang it.
Because I don't, I thought
80 was that max on the
Yeah, I
ice.
didn't really know anyone there anyway. I ended up alone with these projects.
So I like switched all these around like
Instead of projects was
five
really
minutes
much
away,
better.
so that was good. That's what we're confused about.
I usually put the same.
Yes, in reality, yes, you can pick anything, but we're working towards understanding how can I now then adjust them to get the max. Have you got any combinations that are working all the way across yet?
80 and 60 that work.
This was
Wait till the hallway meeting.
38. It's not, they can be less, they just, like, you just can't go over.
But they can be less than the cookie.
They can be less, they shouldn't go over.
So if I get like one thing overnight.
If any of them are over, you stop, you can go to the next one. They just can't be bigger. They can be less. Now, if they're less, you might not be making the max profit, but right now, like, we haven't even put up any profits up here yet.
So did it,
I just want to.
did the
Want to
amount
be as
of,
close, we're making the most money, we want to be as close to it as possible.
so if we're like doing like, the amount of cookies we have, right?
As other things, yep.
And we have to equal both numbers, right? Because both numbers are equal.
It would be cool if they did it, but what we found is like at 70 and 70, when we equal 140, that put us over on dough and time. So 30 and 80 doesn't equal 140, it only equals 11. So the 30 and
Oh, yeah, that
80,
equal like.
it only equals 110, but what we liked about this one was we were maximizing 32 pounds of icing. Okay?
59 and 80, good.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's come back together here. I have some pretty good profits looking around the room. I haven't seen the max profit yet. I haven't looked at everyone's papers, but let's go ahead and share some of these ideas that we have. So we think right now, the last thing that we discussed together was, okay, what if we maximize this icing because we're making $2 per box versus $1.50. So how much dough do we use with 30 and 80? 30 times 1 plus 80 times 0.7. Several of you have already tried this. 86? So 86, that's good, so less than 110. How much time?
15.
Exactly 15. So someone's already checked out that 30 was the most we could make there. So they maxed the icing and then maxed the time. So we maxed 2 of the 4. And how much money is that making us? $205.
On this one, do it at the question.
How many of you, raise your hand if you have a combination greater than $205? Okay. How many of you have a combination greater than $190? Okay. So who can share a combo in that 190 to 200 range?
We have 50, 60, or 50 plain, 60 ice.
Okay. So 50, 60. Raise your hand if you tried that combo on your paper. Anyone try combos close to 50, 60?
Yeah.
What was yours?
50 and 65.
50 and 65. Okay. So how much dough does 50, 60 use?
92.
And how many dozen would be 110 again, right? And how much time?
14 hours,
Okay. And icing.
24.
So all of those then were less except for the dough. We used more dough, but it was not as many dozen, not as much time, not as much icing. And so we had how much money?
$195.
$195. Ryan, just had this thing pop into my head. Why were you trying to maximize the dozens on your, when you had this idea of maybe looking at a graph?
Because I thought that would be more than the maxing out the time.
Okay, so maxing out these obviously is the best, but theoretically, could we max out all of them? Probably not, because we saw when we maxed out dozens, we ran over on the other, right? So, but yeah, if I had the most dozens possible, because I'm getting paid by the dozen I sell, maybe I want this column to be as high as possible without going over on the rest of them. We've already tried that. So a couple of moments ago, someone said they had a number bigger than 205. What was your total again? $207.50. Anything bigger?
$210.50.
$210.50. Anything bigger than $210.50? What's your combo for 210?
55 iced and no, 55 iced.
Oh, 55 ice and
67 plain.
67 plain.
Yeah.
If you are on
And
this half of the room, I want you to check and see if that's a possible combo. 67.55. Okay. And Grace, what was your combo that you had? 45.70. This was 67, right? Yeah. 45 and 70. So on this half of the room over here, so Aurora and Sam and everybody else over here. You with me, Sam? Are you gonna test this 45.70 for me? Grace, what are you thinking? So you're testing 45.70, Jacob. Do you think we could alter those and get any higher than what we had? So he said his was 210. I'm not sure if it works. It was the max time or was not? It maxed the time.
I was given the number of iced and I tried to figure out how many tables. I found that the time was the limiting factor.
Okay.
And the time that I was given, I could make 67 cookies.
Gotcha.
I tried to check all others that would affect it. So like dozens of like this, which doesn't. I checked. I didn't check the icing with profit because those were dependent on either another cookie or that cookie. So I checked the dough, I checked the amount of food storage and the amount of time I had left.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's correct, but if it is,
Oh, yeah.
I was able to make 67 cookies.
For the profit of Jacob's.
So 67.55. So how much dough is the 60? Who's six, are you guys the 67?
Yeah.
Here?
Yeah.
How much dough is that?
I think that half the participants say I'm wrong.
105.5? What about dozens then? 122? And time? 15.05? 14.95. Okay, and icing? And profit? 210.50? Okay. What about our 45.70 over here? How much dough? And dozens? Time? And icing? And profit? Okay. So do you think there's a combo out there bigger than 210.50?
Gotta be,
Think so?
yeah, we'll just have to check pretty much every combination.
So we've already started looking at like working with multiple variables at the same time. But how could we, the question is, some of you are already starting to look at this, how could we max out all 4 variables possibly, right? So take your notebook paper, flip it over to the back, and in your textbooks, flip to 346. And on 346, it's saying what we've already established, and that is, hey, this is a pretty complicated problem. And so the activity is called a simpler cookie.
Chocolate chip.
Can we the question is, would it be helpful if we simply focus on one variable at a time? So let's change the story a little bit and say we're making plain cookies still, we're making iced cookies. We have 15 hours of prep time. This time is something for sure that we can't change usually, right? If that's set in stone for us. But what if we had unlimited dough and we had unlimited oven space and we had unlimited icing? But our only factor here is we have 15 prep time. So now in the back, we're labeling this 346. You're going to have just a four column table. So we're going to list the number of plain you want to try, the number of iced, 15-hour limit. Okay, so we're checking to make sure we stay at 15 hours or less. And we're curious how much profit we could make. Some of you have already tried to maximize 15 hours. But you didn't finish out those combinations because you might have went over on the amount of dough. Or you might have went over on the amount of icing. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes here to explore with your group how you might try to come up with a couple combinations where you're using as close to the 15 hours as possible. Like I said, you already have some combinations where you use 15, so you could actually finish those out if they were ones that you didn't use because they went over on something else.
Now that you're one more, right? Because it came out right at 15. So now you're just using that.
Somebody had one that was left at least 15 that was too high on the
Did you have any that were?
They were 70 and 70 too high on the time. Do you have one on the front?
didn't work on the other side, so you tried.
I don't know, I found a higher combination within 15 hours.
Okay. Did you just focus on 15 hours, or did you
Yeah,
focus
I
on
just
all of
focused
them?
on 15 hours.
Okay. What's the combination?
I actually lowered the to 15. I was able to do 75 plain
And that's just
Okay.
How many planes times 21, so how many
I used all 15 hours and I ended up with a profit of 212. I'm gonna try another combination to see if that's better.
So earlier, some of you tried to max out the iced cookies based on icing. Has anyone maxed out the iced cookies based on time? Ryan?
I got 100 iced cookies.
So we could do 100 iced cookies now because icing isn't a limitation. How did you get 100?
I did 900 divided by 9.
Okay, and if we were in hours, what would that be?
15 divided by 0.15.
Good, so 15, listen up, 15 divided by 0.15, which tells us there's 100 ice, and that's using all it's exactly 15. We didn't have a decimal, so that means we have no plane possible, okay? So even now that we have unlimited icing, and that's kind of some quick math because iced makes how much per dozen? $2, right, Brayden? So $2, so we're only making 200. And we already had a combination meeting all the original constraints that was bigger than 200. Any other thoughts? Can we make more than 200? Can anyone find one bigger than that? Jacob, what was your profit here? You had 75.
212.5.
$212, so that's a new high. $212.50, and that maximized time. Do we have anything bigger than 212?
I got
Ryan?
$225.
225. Anyone have anything bigger than 225? How could we get 225?
I did 150 plain and 0 ice.
So let's make as many plain as possible. So 150 plain, 0 ice. Make sure you have these written down. And that also is using all 15 hours. Could it be bigger than 225?
I think it's fine.
Trick is to find that aggregate with fluids like 140. Let's see how
So in the original problem, is this combination okay? 150?
No.
No, because we only have 140 oven space, correct? So in this particular problem, only working on the time, yes. So we still don't know for sure if we found the max time on the original problem. So we're going to dive back into this on Wednesday, or we'll be back together here on Thursday. Right now we're going to transition into the investigating inequalities. So this notebook piece of paper, do not lose. Keep it in your binder. Over spring break, you can take everything out of your binder for the shadows unit and put it in the back. This would be the first piece of paper you want to keep in your binder for this new cookies unit. Oh, I thought it was 230. For that one?
Julie, have you taken that?
Can you have, yes, that?
It did increase the by lower, let me lower it again.
It's about to be raised up.
Neither side.
Oh.
I already was on cruising with you